Another Wednesday means another edition of Market Rumblings here on the fourth period. That's Dennis Bernstein. I'm Dave Pagnotta. And DB, let's start in Philadelphia, where Chuck Fletcher, their GM, came out today in his mid-season press conference and basically admitted it's time to retool in Philadelphia. And it may start with Claude Giroux. They are giving Giroux the opportunity to speak with his agent over the next couple of weeks, decide what he wants to do, and if he wants to move and chase a Stanley Cup with a contender, they will try to oblige. What do you think happens here with G?
Well, Dave, the grand experiment from last summer in Philly has failed miserably. They even ruined Keith Yandel's Ironman streak last night. They've lost 13 straight. Yes, it's time to move, make significant changes, and the one at the top, the one that probably gets the most return right now will be Claude Giroux. And Dave, that's why agents put no movement clauses in contracts, because that's what he has. So it's nice of Chuck Fletcher to say he's going to control. Well, he does. He's always controlled it. You couldn't trade him to a place he doesn't want to go to, but that would be the first move. And I think with respect to landing spots, I could see one in the East. I could see one in the West. Wouldn't Claude Giroux look great in Boston as a second-line center? I think he's a little bit better than Eric Hall. No disrespect to Eric, although maybe that is a little disrespect to Eric. And then a team who is in the playoff mix, who really doesn't have a 2C right now, would be Anaheim. They have Ryan Getzlaf up top. Claude would be a great addition as the 2C, maybe even the 1C on that team. You know, Ryan Getzlaf isn't really a big-time goal scorer anymore. So those are teams that I look at with respect to the center ice position. If he wants to become a winger, you want to put him on the wing, there's probably some other options. But those two teams pop to the top of my head with respect to needs at the 2C.
Yeah, and he is versatile because he does play the wing as well, as you said. You're looking at Minnesota. You're looking at Colorado. There are going to be other teams that are going to look at this player and say, we've got a guy that can come in and give us the ability to either put him at center, put him on the right wing. He gives us some flexibility. So I'm curious to see how this plays out. As I reported last week on NHL Network, Giroux will take the All-Star break to decide what route he wants to take and then go from there, have a conversation with Fletcher along with his agent, Pat Brisson, and dictate it. They have other pieces, DB. They've got defensemen. They've got some other players. Travis Konechny is a guy that they almost traded in the offseason if they want to create some type of hockey move. And Fletcher did discuss the lack of top-end talent in Philadelphia. They may package Konechny and try to get that, if not now, perhaps in the offseason. Moving on to the Vancouver Canucks, who introduced Patrick Allvin as their GM today, DB. He's got some work to do, him and Jim Rutherford admitting that they're going to make some changes. What do you think happens there? What do you think the first domino is to fall in Vancouver?
I think it's assumptive here, and they had mentioned about moving out some money, making some significant moves. JT Miller, who I love as a player, who's done great in Vancouver, but if you're going to make those moves, that would be the player who's probably got interest, probably a dozen teams would be interested in JT Miller here. So to me, a productive player, a big guy. He's been traded a number of times throughout his career, but for me, he's come in and done the job in Vancouver. If you're going to move that money out, that would be the guy, I think, at the top of the list. You can mention some other players, maybe a Tanner Pearson, but from a productivity and a cap hit standpoint, JT Miller would be the number one target and get a really nice return, I think, for Vancouver.
Yeah, I suspect that they're going to be exploring different options. You mentioned Pearson. Tyler Myers might be another player on that back end with a $6 million cap hit that they may look to kind of explore to see what the market may hold for him as they try to recoup some younger assets and free up some cap space. Because not only do they eventually have to get Elias Pettersson signed long-term, but Brock Besser is due for a new deal as well, as he'll be an RFA coming up. So a lot of decisions happening in Vancouver and some decisions that have to be made with their divisional rival, the Calgary Flames. We talked about JT Miller. They're a team that's already been linked to him. They want to add DB. Is he the right fit, or can you see perhaps another particular player that may be a fit for the Calgary Flames?
Well, I think with respect to Calgary, Dave, when you look at them, it's goal scoring. Mangiapane, great story. His goal scoring's drawn up. Nobody's surprised. He's got 18 goals. He might wind up with 20. No disrespect to Andrew, but it's been a great run. But other than the top line, Dave, and it's being assumptive that Johnny Gaudreau is going to be leaving Calgary at the end of the season, you're going to have to bring in a player, and maybe with some term as well. It may not be a rental, but they're going to need scoring. They just don't have the depth scoring. If they have any designs on making the playoffs and then going deep, they would have to add a goal scorer. So you want to pick your and some options in the market with respect to goal scorers. Calgary, I would assume, would be interested in Miller, but any of the guys that could fill a net for them as well.
Calgary for the last little while has been always linked and always in the mix for some of the big names that were available. Jack Eichel, Pierre-Luc Dubois, Patrick Laine. I'm curious to see which route they end up going, because you're right. If you've got a younger player with term to kind of back the fact that Johnny G is going to be hitting the open market as a free agent in the summer, it's going to be interesting to see what route Brad Treliving and his staff do in Calgary. This has been Market Rumblings here on the fourth period. Check back with us next week for the latest around the NHL, and keep tabs on our trade watch list, updated regularly throughout the week.